I don't believe in crystal skulls.
I need you to tell me you believe in crystal skulls.
Please don't make me believe in them.
Hello friends, and welcome back to ReddX, your source for the freshest cringe content anywhere on the internet. Promise, swearsies, it's just a fact, and it's totally science. Go ahead and look it up. Today we're jumping into r/LegbeardStories. Yes, user Solid Adept has returned to the fold once again. I am so grateful that we will be continuing the Stealthbeard saga today. He is an exceptional writer that really manages to put you into his shoes and make you see his mindset and why he made the choices that he made. It is a very different style of Legbeard stories, but I'm always so grateful for the Legbeard stories, especially when they are such a saga. Once this is all together, it's going to be absolutely beautiful, and I can't wait for it. It has been a month since we did part 2, but if you need a refresher or something like that, the links to those videos, previous videos, are in the description as always. So without any further delay, let's go ahead and get some plugs and disclaimers done, and then we will dive right into some Legbeard cringe. Stealthbeard, the Legbeard of Ultimate Destiny, part number 3. Shifting mindset. It's been a long time. A month has flown by. ReddX actually reached out to me via Reddit, true, to ask if I was alright. I knew he was a chill guy from his YouTube videos, but I don't think I've ever met a YouTuber who was so down to earth or involved with his fans, and I really do appreciate that. I mean, honestly, man, it's no skin off my nose as far as I'm concerned. Taking a couple minutes out to just make sure that you're okay is important. You were mentioning in the last story how difficult it is to sit down and write this saga, and I think I even said in the message that I'm hungry for it, but I definitely don't want to pressure you or anything like that. As far as being down to earth, I mean, yeah, I like to stay accessible to people who make my dream possible, you know what I mean? If anybody who watches these videos is ever looking to chat, I mean, I'm on Twitter, I'm on Discord, I'm very reachable. Don't be a stranger, because you guys really are the reason that all this has happened for me. So I'm super grateful to each and every one of you, but I do digress. Suffice to say that I am fine, just working. I do apologize for the lack of a response. I'm still a bit of a social cripple, and these experiences only worsen that. And I also had no idea, honestly, how to respond properly to my favorite YouTuber. Aw, favorite. I just kind of froze up over it, but you shall wait no longer for Stealthbeard. Today is the day, and I won't make people wait. Let's get back into the thick of things and relive some of the lowest points of my life together, shall we? There's so much good content on YouTube. Why is this your favorite YouTube channel? No, I definitely appreciate that, dude. Very flattering. If you haven't read the previous sagas, Part 1, The Meeting, Part 2, Big Clubbin', as I said, those links are in the description. If you wanted to update the post with those links, that'd be cool too, but no pressure, again. You can also just change the last digit of the URL, which I didn't do on purpose, but it is neato. I think I pointed that out in the last video. That is a big brain play, intended or not. So, to summarize these stories, if you can't sit through my word salad, or ReddX's YouTube narrations, I met a Legbeard, LB, and her seemingly normal friend, THC, while at the library. My male friend, TF, encouraged me to go clubbing with them at a gay nightclub. I ended up freak dancing with my male friend while the Legbeard took a video. This video would turn into the bane of my existence. Legbeard had called and demanded that I meet with her, or she would make my life a living hell. The truth was, she would make my life a living hell regardless, but we'll get into that today. Yeah, I guess that's kind of how blackmail works, you know? Ain't no way out! Ugh. After the threatening phone call, I lay awake in my bed. I felt dejected and used. My thoughts ran back and forth with questions. Should I meet with her? Even if I didn't, how could my life possibly get any worse? Maybe I should just transfer to another college. Even if my credits weren't actually transferable, I'd potentially only lose a semester or so, but I would be living in my car. How does one live in a car with no income? Legbeard would definitely pull the trigger if I ran away from this problem. She knew where I lived now. I decided that I needed to at least keep my mother moderately happy until I could finish school and actually fly the nest for myself. My mother and my living situation were the crux of why I agreed to meet up with my blackmailer, and I think that's what I asked at the end of the second story. So, we're getting some answers. It has occurred to me that I haven't mentioned my mother much, and I'm sure she still doesn't mention me very much either, even to this very day. Her patience had waned, and I think watching her only son spiral into self-destruction led her down a similar path. She drank too much, invited over a different man every night, had no motivation to do anything except collect on her disability, and that's a large part of why I think she was so intent of pushing me out of the nest. She simply didn't like that I was taking a piece of her pie, and I suppose that's fair. I actually do see a lot of the uglier parts of myself in all those things that she did, and I can admit that I had a rather large hand in things turning out the way that they did. Years later, I don't begrudge her, but it has taken a large amount of therapy in order to let go. Again, great you're in therapy. Love to hear that. Everybody needs therapy on some level, as I said in the video yesterday. Despite all of her shortcomings, my mother still considered herself a good Christian woman. But the only times that she mentioned Christ or quoted scripture was when the time came to justify her hatred towards another group of people. I'm sure you know this type. Needless to say, having her only child be painted as a gay man by a duplicitous Legbeard would be far more than her poor, little, shriveled, tiny, cold heart could bear. I was determined not to let that happen, at least until I could figure out a way to keep a roof over my head. Yeah, housing is important. It's not easy to live in a car, I know from experience. So, all that to say, yes, I did decide to meet up with the Legbeard at the library as requested. I arrived to the meeting about 15 minutes ahead of time, and she was already there, waiting, drinking a Gatorade, munching on a bag of corn chips, watching something on her phone, probably the cursed video in question. She was absolutely as happy as could be in her own little world. She hadn't seen me yet. Despite that pasted-on jack-o'-lantern grin, I swear I could see the dark aura surrounding her in that moment. I hadn't noticed it at all the day before, and I swear I've never seen anyone else's aura. I don't believe in crystal skulls and water wizardry. But it was clear to me then, as it is now, that this harpy was wielding some powerful, evil magic deep inside of her soul. I felt rage boiling up inside of me. I had trusted her. I had attempted to make a real human connection, and blackmail was my reward. I had a vivid mental image then of simply bludgeoning her to death with a cinder block in full view of everyone. Right outside the library? Bro, that's hardcore. Betrayal for betrayal, right? But I sighed and let that thought go. She wasn't worth a lifetime behind bars. I'd just have to play her little game until I eventually found my escape. I approached, slamming my backpack onto the table next to her. It was an event similar to what had initiated our very first meeting yesterday. She didn't even flinch, simply muttering, "Sit down!" I complied, but I did not speak first, just drilling my eyes into her face with every ounce of my hatred. She stared back and finished crunching up another mouthful of chips with her mangled teeth.
"Do you always make it a point to slam things down when you're upset? It's very childish,"
she admonished. I couldn't quite find the words, but she didn't speak further. We sat and stared at each other like an old married couple that had nothing but disdain for each other. Her Gatorade transforming into a cup of stale black coffee. The bag of chips somehow morphed into a hate-infused pile of burned scrambled eggs. It paints such a picture, dude. 30 years flew by in a flash. I could see her aging into the despicable hag that I knew lived inside of her. Finally, I was able to move my mouth. Do you always make it a point to blackmail people that you've only known for a day? I spat at her. She laughed, high and loud. It sounded like a hyena that was getting ready to make a kill.
You think I'd blackmail you? I simply want to help you reach your full potential,
she insisted. I could feel her tugging at my sympathy, or perhaps it was a ploy to take advantage of my own self-hatred. I knew in my heart that she had a game plan the entire time. She could smell weakness. It was like the perfume of a hot meal to her, and I was rife with the scent. Oh, what do they call those? Emotional vampires, dude. I bet she could sense that OP was like in need of a friend and feeling unconfident, and she totally just swooped on in and took advantage of that, as we see. Man, them legbeards though. I wanted to scream at her and call her out for the witch that she was, but all I could do was speak softly but venomously through gritted teeth. What do you want from me? She looked me up and down.
You're gonna come home with me today.
My heart leapt into my throat. I'll be honest with you here. I had only had one sexual experience, and it was so subpar that the woman that I was with literally mocked me directly afterwards. Her words seared into my brain to this day. Is that it? Okay, not the most vicious thing I've ever been told, I guess, but it was yet another instance of putting it all out on the line and getting punched right in the dick for daring to do so. I did not have the heart to pursue anything else since then because of that experience. I was 16 at the time. It's been almost a decade, 8 years since that fateful night. Honestly, I think most people's first time at bat sucks pretty hard. I know mine did. I relate to you quite heavily on that front, OP. If Legbeard was implying what I thought she was implying, then it's needless to say that I was extremely uncomfortable. Even if the circumstances had been different, this behavior was absolutely beyond the pale. She could see the panic on my face and started laughing again.
Ew, no. It's not like that, you little pervert. Thiccy Chick is at my house right now. We said yesterday that we were gonna give you a makeover. You seemed to like that idea last night.
She spoke that last sentence in a kicked puppy sort of tone and gave me pleading eyes. My mood did lighten considerably at the mention of Thiccy Chick. I was eager to see her again, at the very least. Looking back, this was indeed all subtle manipulation. Legbeard made no mention of the video. She made the idea sound like I had already essentially agreed with it. Legbeard even used her friend as bait to get me back to her nest. In my heart, I did know that this was not going to be a good idea, but there was a large chunk of me that just wanted it to turn out fine, and I thought that maybe I could make it so by just believing that everything was going to be okay. Clap your hands 3 times, OP. Wishes do come true. Submission. Works for dogs, works for humans. Perhaps I could just go home with her, and the girls would help me restore a chunk of humanity that I had lost years prior. I could maybe at least look like a normal person on the outside, and that could assist in making me feel like a normal person on the inside, maybe? Legbeard had indeed pulled the wool over my eyes, but in my weakness, I was willing to let it stay over my eyes and just continue pretending that everything was normal. None of this is normal. She could see the gears turning, and obviously she didn't want them spinning on their own for too long, because I might actually realize that this was a very stupid idea. So she quickly interrupted my train of thought by standing up, holding out a hand, and saying,
"So, let's go?"
with a distinct dash of hopefulness. I didn't take her hand, because I was still liable to twist her arm off and fucking beat her to death with it. I'm not a goddamn goldfish, and I hadn't forgotten the reason that I was sitting here, but I did nod at her. She withdrew her hand and started off towards the parking lot, talking a mile a minute.
"I'll drive us. Your car's such a beater. Ugh, how can you even stand to be seen in that thing? we're gonna need to do something about that, but let's start with the small things first. First, we'll need...
I finally found my nerve and interrupted her this time. More of that infamous negging, I see. But OP said, I want to drive my car, I murmured. Her demeanor changed almost immediately as she spun around to face me.
What did you say?
She hissed. I said I want to drive there myself, I mumbled at her. The events of last night were still fresh in my mind. I was stranded then in an awkward situation and had no means to get myself out of it without either walking myself home or trying to hitch a ride with a potential serial killer. Hitchhiking ain't so bad, OP. Ramtide's been doing it for years. But you probably do want to carry a knife with you. Just saying. I had no idea where Legbeard lived, and I was not eager to leave my car behind again and be stuck waiting for them to take me home by their own good graces. If I needed to make a swift exit, then I was determined to have the means to do so without anyone or anything standing in my way. I had no idea what plans she actually had for me, and I was not going to hand over control and let come what may, as long as I could help it. It was an act of self-preservation at this point, pure and simple. This is a very good point. We are learning from our mistakes, OP, and I love to see it. Definitely don't just, submit on that front. All the other crap might be fine, but getting stranded at a Legbeard's house can only be bad news. So I'm glad that you pushed the point on this. Of course, she might also have said, get in the car or I'm going to release the video, but I don't think that she wants to play her hand this early either. It's like this weird game of cat and mouse going on, and I do like it. This is good stuff. Legbeard was obviously not happy that I'd made this request to maintain my personal liberty and took another large step towards me, purposely invading my personal space.
And how are we going to make sure that you don't get lost?
Her words slid out, oozing vitriol. I mean, the video, I shrugged. And with those words, a switch flipped in her brain again, and she backed off, and that disturbing smile returned to her lips. She knew I was under her control, at least for now.
Oh, I'd almost forgotten. Almost.
She cackled derisively.
All right, well, I'll drive really slow just for you and that old hunk of junk. Just make extra sure that you don't get lost, or else that little video might find itself in the attachments of the entire school mailing list. I could also drop a copy off at your mom's house, but I don't think that would even be necessary. Did you know your mom is on Facebook? Pretty active too, by the looks of things.
She said all of this with that same deranged smirk. Boy, she been stalking you on her own time. This is definitely a move that's meant to tighten the noose. Because it seems like OP doesn't really care about approval from his peers, but he needs his mom to stay approving in order to, live in a house. She's a snake, dude. She's done this before, for sure. I puffed my chest out, a rare moment of bravery overcoming me. Look, we both know what this is, don't we? If you really want to help me, then I would be grateful. But if that were the case, then the video wouldn't be needed, right? So I'm willing to play along to keep it under wraps, but let's not pretend that this isn't what it clearly is, okay? OP found some big dick energy. Her only response was to spin on her heels, yelling over her shoulder that
she drove a black Jetta.
I thought that was exceedingly fitting. The two-faced friendliness and then aggression of the German Volkswagen that she drove pitted against the passive, attempted neutrality of the Swedish Volvo that I was driving. I'm not sure why that sticks out to me so much, but it still does, even to this day. Like I said, I don't try to read too much into things, but signs or coincidences like that can sometimes smack you right in the face. As I got into my car, I glimpsed into the rearview mirror for her car, catching my own eyes in the process. I felt a deep sense of shame and regret. There was nothing that I could do now, really, except for ride the wave. I had put myself into this situation, even if it was just a series of unfortunate events. And I had been in similar positions many times before, and had long since learned the hard lesson that nobody was going to give me a hand and help me out of it. It was all up to me. A bit of confidence and self-determination had started to blossom within me at this point, and though I didn't realize it or have the words then, I have since learned this bit of sage advice. Sometimes, staying passive is the right move, but those times honestly aren't very often. You need to make moves in order to protect yourself and advance the objective that you're working towards. While I wasn't completely this person at that time, this story is one of the many that helped my objective-based mindset to finally take form. God damn, that is beautiful. I see that therapy is really working for you, and I definitely do hope that this story will have a happy ending at the end of things. Anyways, in the middle of that surge of regret, I did spot the she-witch, not riding a broom as one would think, but instead hunched over the wheel of a black Jetta, just like she had said. She pulled up right behind my car and let out 2 sharp beeps. Beep, beep. I beeped back once in response. Beep. And she pulled ahead to let me out of the spot. With that, I began to follow her. As always, my mind was racing with possibilities about what exactly might be awaiting me at her house. There had to be a way out of this situation. Perhaps I could, accidentally destroy her phone. Maybe the phone could just go missing by my own hands. But it was a very real possibility that she had already transferred the video file to a computer, or, God forbid, even onto something like Google Drive. This was all around the time that cloud storage was first beginning to rear its ugly head. So early 2010s, I guess. But the truth is, I didn't really know much about Legbeard. Could she be tech savvy enough to be on board with something like that? I needed to make sure. I needed to watch very carefully and plan my next moves extremely deliberately. As much as it pained me to even consider it, I might even have to buddy up to Legbeard in order to get her guard down even further. She was a cunning creature, but there's always a weakness. I just needed to play along for a time until I found the gap in her armor. At least going into her house might give me some idea of what she was like in her personal life, and how I could best stab her where it hurt the most as soon as the opportunity presented itself. I really did have very little to lose at this point. If I went down trying to conquer this beast, then I would make sure to create a fireball big enough to take down some other people right alongside me. My mother, Trollface, even Thiccy Chick. I started considering how to pull all of their strings and force them to do what I required of them. I knew that my mother and Trollface were both creatures of vice, so it would be fairly easy to pin down what I needed to do to get to them should the need arise. Thiccy Chick was a different mystery, but I would figure that out given due time. Obviously, this was not a very pretty mask to wear, and I take no pride in my effort to do these things, but you have to see it my way. I was being manipulated, and at the end of the day, I needed to play the game better than Legbeard played it. When it comes down to it, needs must. Yeah, that's a fair point, OP. That good old fights fire with fire type of stuff. My mind was plotting while I stared at the black car in front of me, winding me deeper into a housing tract. Obviously, I don't get out of the house much, so I didn't even really recognize where I was at this point. Well, so much for having brought my car, after all. I suppose if worst came to worst, I could simply drive through a couple of backyards to get back on the main street. Jesus, what was I becoming? This situation had definitely brought out a lot of my baser instincts. Finally, the Jetta stopped in front of a squat house with a lawn that was about 50% dirt and 50% brown, dead grass. Seemed like she took about the same care of her lawn as she took of herself. Now, you might think that it's a boom or take, but you can tell a lot about a person by the type of lawn that they keep. It is sort of a boom or take, but I take all my cues from Hank Hill, and Hank Hill says you're right.
Yep.
I did follow a note of Legbeard's at this point, and I pasted on a fake smile to hide the malicious thoughts that were crawling around in my lizard brain, and I got out of the car to compliment Legbeard on her lovely abode. She beamed with pride and told me all about how,
She managed to get it all by herself.
spoiler, I later found out that she actually got a hefty loan from the bank of mom and dad to get the down payment together. Yeah, that's the sort of loan that never gets repaid, isn't it? I just nodded along enthusiastically and played my part. Thick Chick peeked out of the front door and came running down the walkway to wrap me up in a hug. Oh my god, I missed you so much, OP. My head started to swim. God, she smelled so good. Like honeydew. The poison thoughts evaporated in that moment, but they would return shortly as we entered the house to begin the makeover. Oh, cliffhanger! Oh, I'm so hooked, dude. I need more. So that's about all the time that I have for the day, but I do hope that you guys are enjoying the ride. Suffice to say that the entire situation is going to end in some glorious fireworks. But first, I've got to set my pride aside in order to dig the dirt that would bring about the downfall. As always, huge props to ReddX for reading my story. Hey, I got you, fam. I promise it won't be another month before I get into the next part. Take care of yourselves out there, guys. Until next time. Well, the title for this story is pretty fitting. This is like the shift in the mindset that sets everything else into motion. You know what I mean? The first couple of stories, I'm like, oh, OP is just a regular, nerdy seeming type dude that just wants to do the right thing. But when you corner an animal, they will bite back. And it seems like OP is learning how to bite back. Or more accurately, just trying to find his window to bite back in the best way possible. I was really hoping we could get a glimpse into Legbeard's house in this episode, but not quite yet. This was just a meeting and a drive. I swear this OP more verbose than Stephen King. But I really do like that we're taking it step by step because it puts you inside of OP's head. And once the series is all put together, it is going to be glorious. I think I said that already, but I really do like them big compilations that just come together so nicely. Although there is something to be said for action versus explanation, you know, just a bit of light criticism. At this pace, we're gonna go into like the triple digits to get this story complete, which I'm down for, but I don't know. Maybe it's just because we're really getting into the shoes, into the mindset, having things explained for us, and then, you know, part 4, everything will start rolling and get action-packed because we know what position everybody is in, or something like that. I don't want to make any presumptions. At the end of the day, I definitely appreciate you sitting down to write for us, OP. This is some beefy posts. I love when I can put just one post into a video and it fills the whole thing up. That's delicious. So thank you for putting in the legwork. I will also put in the legwork, edit, upload, narrate, etc. And with our powers combined, we're going to take over the YouTube game. At least the cringe content side of YouTube. That's my dream. And if you guys would like to help me in achieving that dream, I do hope that you'll like, comment, and or subscribe. Maybe share the video around if you should like. That is always a huge, huge help. I also hope you click on some of them links down in the description. My wifey's channel, Mr. and Mrs. ReddX, my personal subreddit, r/ReddXReads. We got the Teespring if you're trying to rock the merch, Amazon affiliate if you want to buy something on Amazon. I mean, currently it goes to my microphone, but you can search up anything. And then I get like a little percentage. It doesn't increase your price. I just get rewarded for directing you to Amazon, which is pretty cool if you're going to buy something anyways. That's what we call a win-win. We also got Darkly Studios, of course, did all the character animations. I think I'll be getting about 5 more animations this month, so you guys can look forward to those getting shuffled into the rotation and whatnot. Also, over on Twitter, we have at Dayton Does. That's my Twitter. We got my Facebook as well, and my Discord link is down in the description. All sorts of social medias. And that also includes my gorgeous, wonderful, beautiful, generous patrons. Yes, indeed. I'd like to thank them all, but specifically Zero MMX, Lady Nix, Robert Waits, Pope Squid, Cider Drinker, Tato Ferret, The Last Shinobi, Mark 211, Aaron W, John Hero, Candy Sora, Fire Drake, Little Lone Wolf, Miss Monday, Silent Revolver, JM Coon, Leon Embers, TSM Kirby, Redwind, Synaptic Boomstick, Jerry, Staples, Yeet, Cake Jerry, that's a different Jerry, my boy Nat One Nick, Brilliant Tamago, that big delicious jelly donut, the one and only Livison, the OG James Cook, Big Papa Jesus, Aaron Lennox, Serena Dash, the Maestro, Zuka is in the house, John Indoors, Princess Rosalie, and a new friend joining us today, Zatharus. Thank you guys so much for supporting. I will be sending out emails within the week so that you might collect upon your rewards. Obviously, if anybody else can help support the channel monetarily, that's huge to me. I thank you very much in advance. But if you can't right now, don't sweat it too hard, friends. I just appreciate you coming on through, hanging out with me, and I hope that you come on back and hang out with me again tomorrow. Because really,
The views is how my beard stays buttered.
that's probably too gross. Sorry, headphone users. In order to do so, you'll also need to keep yourself safe out there. Wash your hands. But also, equally as important, is taking some time out and doing something that you personally enjoy today. Maybe watching some old ReddX videos, huh? Always remember, friends, that you are loved, you are worthy, and you definitely deserve it. I shall see you in the next one. And until then, bye-bye.